Imagine the joy of a 13th birthday party, a celebration filled with laughter, cake, and the promise of adventure. But what if that joy was shattered in an instant? What if the very people entrusted to protect a child were hiding dark secrets? Meet Madeline Soto, a bright and spirited girl from Kissimmee, Florida. Just one day after her birthday celebration, she vanished without a trace, leaving her family and community in turmoil. As the last activities of her life began to fall into place, investigators uncovered haunting tales of betrayal and deception that would mark a turning point in the lives of those involved. Prepare yourself for a journey through heartbreak and horror as we unravel the tragic tale of Madeline Soto. A story that serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers that can hide behind closed doors and the profound impact of misplaced trust. On February 26, 2024, a seemingly ordinary day shattered into chaos for the Soto family. 13-year-old Madeline Soto had just celebrated her birthday surrounded by friends and family, filled with dreams and hopes for the future. But as the sun set on that fateful day, Madeline vanished without a trace, plunging her loved ones into a nightmare from which they may never awaken. In the days that followed, investigators uncovered a disturbing reality hidden beneath the surface of Madeline's life, a web of secrets and troubling dynamics that would lead to heartbreak and horror. The last person to see her was her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, who claimed he dropped her off at school that morning. However, it soon became clear that his entire tale was riddled with inconsistencies, and trust was the last concern on anyone's mind. What started as an effort to locate a lost child quickly shifted to a disturbing investigation filled with shocking information and staggering facts. The community rallied together, but with each passing hour, hope dwindled as dark truths began to emerge. Join us today as we explore the chilling case of Madeline Soto. Madeline's life was woven with both joy and turmoil, shaped by the dynamics of her family. At just 13 years old, she lived with her mother, Jennifer Soto, in the Venetian Bay Village complex in Kissimmee, Florida. Their home, while filled with love, was not without challenges. Jennifer, a dedicated mother, often found herself at odds with her daughter, leading to frequent arguments that left both feeling frustrated and misunderstood. Madeline was diagnosed with ADHD, affecting her ability to focus and contributing to her struggles in school. Teachers described her as a sweet girl, prone to distraction but possessing a kind heart. However, in the months leading up to her disappearance, friends began to notice a shift in her demeanor. Madeline often seemed sad and fatigued, sometimes crying without explanation. She confided in her friends about her mother's struggles with mental health, referring to Jennifer as bipolar and expressing feelings of isolation. Adding complexity to their relationship was the presence of Stephen Stearns, Jennifer's boyfriend. Though Madeline spoke affectionately about him, calling him stepfather and seeking his comfort during conflicts with her mother, the dynamics within the household were anything but simple. Stephen had taken on a fatherly role in Madeline's life, but this arrangement raised eyebrows among those who knew them. In early 2024, Madeline began voicing an unsettling desire to escape her home life. She discussed plans with friends about building a house in the woods as soon as she turned 13, an innocent dream that took on a darker tone in light of her subsequent disappearance. As February 26th approached, a day that should have been filled with excitement following her birthday celebration, tensions mounted within the Soto household. The morning began like any other, but soon spiraled into chaos that would change everything. Madeline's living situation was a blend of affection and conflict. While she cherished moments spent with Stephen and often sought his support during difficult times, underlying issues loomed large. As investigators delved into Madeline's last movements and explored her family dynamics, they uncovered shocking truths that hinted at the tragic fate awaiting this bright young girl. On February 26, 2024, the day began like any other. Jennifer Soto woke early to the sound of her boyfriend Stephen taking their dog out for a walk. In her sleepy haze, she returned to bed, blissfully unaware of the dark turn her day would take. As morning filtered through the curtains, the family dynamics appeared normal. However, beneath the surface lay tension and unspoken fears. Stephen drove Madeline to school that morning, but instead of dropping her off directly at Hunter Creek Middle School, he made a fateful decision to leave her at Peace United Methodist Church, conveniently located across the street. It was around 8:30 a.m. when he dropped her off, and surveillance footage later captured Madeline lingering in the church parking lot for several minutes. Her small figure sitting on the ground, seemingly lost in thought. As time passed, she stood up and walked toward the school, but she never arrived. In those crucial moments, no one could have imagined that this would be the last time anyone would see Madeline. The innocence of a typical school day was shattered as she disappeared into thin air. At some point during the day, Stephen informed Jennifer that he had factory reset his phone to update it. As morning turned to afternoon, concerns about Madeline's absence began to rise. Stephen's casual dismissal of his responsibility, alongside Jennifer's obliviousness to the lurking danger, would soon haunt them both. Around 4:30 p.m., Jennifer arrived at Hunter Creek Middle School, her heart filled with anticipation to pick up her daughter. However, as she scanned the crowd of students streaming out, a sinking feeling took hold. Madeline was nowhere to be found. Concern quickly turned to panic when school administrators informed Jennifer that Madeline had never attended classes that day. The realization hit her. Something was terribly wrong. Desperate to locate her daughter, Jennifer searched nearby locations, including her mother's office, praying Madeline might have gone there after school. As Jennifer drove through familiar streets, anxiety gripped her heart. She checked every corner, calling out Madeline's name, but there was no response. The world around her felt increasingly surreal as the minutes ticked by. After exhausting all possible locations with no sign of her daughter, Jennifer's desperation grew. She reached out to friends, hoping they had seen Madeline or could offer insight into her whereabouts. Social media became a tool for outreach as she posted about Madeline's disappearance, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. As dusk approached and the sun dipped below the horizon, Jennifer realized that time was slipping away. With dread settling in her stomach, she made the difficult decision to report Madeline missing around 8 p.m. The weight of uncertainty bore down on her as she dialed 911, knowing that every passing moment could mean the difference between finding her daughter safe or facing unimaginable tragedy. When Jennifer finally reported her daughter missing around 8 p.m., Her fear was palpable. The response from law enforcement was not immediate. It took several hours for deputies to arrive, leaving Jennifer in a state of growing anxiety as she paced the school grounds, desperately hoping for news of Madeline. By the time officers responded, nearly 12 hours had passed since she last saw her daughter. The deputies began gathering information from Jennifer and Stephen, whose initial questions focused on Madeline's last known whereabouts and potential leads that might help locate her. With each answer given, investigators noted inconsistencies in Stephen's account that would later raise red flags about his involvement in Madeline's disappearance. The following day, February 27th, law enforcement launched an extensive search operation involving over 100 personnel from various agencies, including the Orange County Sheriff's Office and local volunteers. Canines were deployed to track Madeline's scent while search teams combed through nearby parks, hiking trails, and wooded areas surrounding Hunter Creek Middle School. Search efforts were methodical, with officers utilizing ATVs and horses to cover rough terrain, scouring every inch of the area where Madeline was last seen as they followed emerging tips and leads. Volunteers joined in the search, handing out flyers bearing Madeline's picture and details about her disappearance, hoping to spark recognition from anyone who might have seen her. Despite their efforts, each passing hour brought a sense of urgency and dread as investigators pieced together a timeline of Madeline's movements on that fateful day, uncovering unsettling truths that would ultimately reveal the tragic fate of this young girl. As the search for Madeline intensified, Jennifer Soto's heart raced with worry in her desperate quest for answers. She noted with a sinking feeling that Madeline had left her phone at home, a common occurrence due to her forgetfulness associated with ADHD. While it wasn't unusual for Madeline to misplace things, this time felt ominous. The absence of her phone meant no immediate way to track her movements or communicate with her. Determined to find clues about her daughter's whereabouts, Jennifer scoured Madeline's text messages, hoping to uncover something, anything, that might indicate where she had gone or who she had been in contact with. However, there were no alarming texts, no hints of plans to run away, and no signs of distress. As the investigation into Madeline Soto's disappearance unfolded, law enforcement quickly turned their attention to the last known individuals who had seen her: Jennifer and her boyfriend, Stephen Stearns. Officers began their inquiry by interviewing both, eager to piece together the timeline of events leading up to Madeline's vanishing. Stephen claimed he had dropped Madeline off in front of Peace United Methodist Church around 8:40 a.m. on February 26th, just a short walk from Hunter Creek Middle School. He described how she exited the vehicle and headed toward the school, seemingly unbothered as she walked away. However, inconsistencies began to surface during his interviews with police. Although he presented a calm exterior, investigators noted subtle signs of nervousness in his responses. He consented to a search of his phone, but insisted that he had accidentally performed a factory reset on it the same day Madeline went missing, a claim the investigators found suspicious. The timing was too convenient. As they continued questioning him, investigators learned that a license plate reader had captured Stephen's vehicle in various locations throughout the morning, yet none of those locations aligned with his account of dropping Madeline off at school. Instead of following a direct route to Hunter Creek Middle School, His car was seen making unusual turns and detours. Investigators pressed Stephen about these inconsistencies, questioning why he would drop Madeline off at a church instead of directly at school, especially since classes started at 9:30 a.m. His explanations seemed rehearsed and lacked clarity, and it became increasingly evident that something about his story didn't add up. The tension in the room was palpable as investigators confronted him with their findings. They were aware that Stephen was not only a person of interest, but also the last known individual to have seen Madeline alive. 2 days after Madeline's disappearance, on February 28th, law enforcement officials arrested Stephen Stearns, but not for anything directly related to Madeline's case. He was taken into custody on charges of sex battery and possession of explicit child material. The arrest sent ripples through the community, raising questions about the man who had been the last person to see Madeline alive. As investigators delved deeper into Stephen's background, they uncovered disturbing evidence that would change the course of the investigation entirely. Upon examining his phone, authorities found horrific images and videos so graphic that they left seasoned detectives shaken. This material pointed to a pattern of abuse likely occurring within the family home. Stephen's claim of accidentally performing a factory reset on his phone on the same day Madeline went missing raised further suspicion. The reset erased crucial data that could have illuminated his actions and whereabouts on the morning of Madeline's disappearance. As law enforcement sifted through what remained on Stephen's device, they discovered numerous explicit images and videos depicting sexual abuse of children. The content was so graphic that it made stomachs churn, detailing acts that no child should ever endure. Investigators observed distinct patterns in some of the images, with clothing and items matching those belonging to Madeline. This revelation painted a horrifying picture of a man who had not only been entrusted with caring for a young girl, but who may also have been her abuser. With this newfound evidence, Stephen became the primary suspect in Madeline's disappearance. While he was not initially charged with her abduction, investigators were increasingly convinced that his actions were intertwined with her fate, as details emerged about his disturbing behavior in the content found on his phone. Stephen's arrest marked a pivotal moment in the investigation, shifting from searching for a missing girl to uncovering a web of deception and horror that would ultimately lead to deeper inquiries into what really happened on that fateful day. On March 1st, 2024, authorities received a tip that led them to a wooded area off Hickory Tree Road in Osceola County. As search teams scoured the terrain, they stumbled upon a discovery that shattered any remaining hope. Madeline's body, concealed beneath a layer of dry grass and hay. The condition of her body was heart-wrenching. She was identified by the distinctive clothing, a green hoodie and blue jeans, similar to what she had been wearing when she disappeared. The sight of her lifeless form painted a haunting picture of the tragedy that had unfolded during those fateful days. As investigators meticulously gathered evidence from the scene, they noted signs of decomposition on one side of her face and hands. The medical examiner's investigation indicated that Madeline's body showed signs consistent with foul play, further solidifying the belief that she had been murdered. This discovery marked a pivotal moment in the investigation, transitioning from the search for a missing girl to the recovery of a young child's body. an emotional blow not only for law enforcement but for the entire community. As news spread about the recovery, sorrow and outrage filled the hearts of those who had rallied together in hopes of finding Madeline alive. During a critical news conference, investigators shared their growing confidence that 13-year-old Madeline Soto had likely been killed at her Kissimmee home before her body was moved. Sheriff Mina revealed that video evidence captured Stephen discarding items into a dumpster at the apartment complex around 7:35 a.m. on February 26, the very day Madeline was reported missing. In that dumpster, authorities discovered Madeline's backpack, her school-issued laptop, and a white crock that matched another found in her mother's bedroom. This evidence contradicted Stephen's claim that he had dropped Madeline off near the school that morning. Instead, investigators asserted they had evidence indicating that Madeline had never been dropped off at all, that she was already dead by the time Stephen's vehicle was seen driving away. Sheriff Mina emphasized, "We have evidence that shows Stephen Stearns returning to the complex with Madeline visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time." Investigative reports indicated that Madeline was most likely killed in her home, further complicating the narrative surrounding her disappearance. The cause of death for 13-year-old Madeline was officially ruled as homicide by the medical examiner, who determined she died from strangulation, a conclusion reached after her body was discovered in a wooded area on March 1st. On March 2nd, 2024, Stephen Stearns waived his first appearance in Osceola County Court, opting to be represented solely by his attorney. The judge denied him bond, reflecting the seriousness of the charges he faced. In a significant misstep, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office accidentally posted a confidential crime scene photo on social media, depicting clothing consistent with what Madeline was believed to have been wearing when she went missing. The Sheriff's Office later issued an apology for the error, acknowledging that the photo should not have been made public. On March 6th, court records revealed that Stephen was accused of sexually abusing Madeline for years. Despite his attempts to erase incriminating evidence from his phone, investigators recovered files showing explicit content related to Madeline dating back to 2022. Disturbing images and videos depicting her in compromising situations. Additionally, police interviewed a former acquaintance of Stephen, who noted that he seemed more upset about his bond with Madeline than his relationship with her mother, raising further concerns about the dynamics within the household and Stephen's motivations. As the investigation progressed, it became increasingly clear that authorities were building a strong case against Stephen. The combination of video evidence, recovered digital files, and witness testimonies painted a troubling picture of abuse and manipulation that would ultimately lead to serious legal repercussions for him. On March 6th, detectives interviewed Stephen's parents, who expressed disapproval of his relationship with Madeline's mother, citing concerns over drug use and the negative influence it had on their son. They described a troubling dynamic in which both Stephen and Jennifer often slept excessively, exacerbating their mental health issues. Notably, during the interview, Stephen's mother mentioned finding the torso of a sex doll in his bedroom, raising further suspicions about his behavior. On March 12, 2024, the Orange Osceola State Attorney's Office announced it had filed 60 counts against Stephen Stearns, including 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child aged 12 to 18, 7 counts of lascivious molestation, and 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. The following day, detectives spoke with Madeline's best friend, who revealed that Madeline had a habit of texting her every morning. However, on the day she went missing, there were no messages from her, raising further alarm. By March 1st, Kissimmee Police Chief Betty Holland held a news conference to discuss the investigation's progress, describing it as very intricate and stating that everyone close to Madeline was considered a suspect until proven otherwise, including her mother, Jennifer. As the investigation continued, the District 9 Medical Examiner's Office announced that Madeline's autopsy report could not be released due to state statutes deeming it confidential. However, audio from 911 calls related to the case was made public, featuring 2 different voices speaking with dispatchers. On April 10th, while in jail, Stephen called his father, expressing remorse and uncertainty about who was responsible for Madeline's fate. He stated, "You know, I would never have wanted that for Madeline," suggesting an unawareness of the gravity of the situation. As the investigation into Madeline's tragic disappearance and subsequent demise progressed, significant developments unfolded on April 11th, 2024, when Stephen's father contacted law enforcement after discovering a hard drive in his storage unit linked to Stephen, who previously claimed the drive was in his bedroom. The following day, police retrieved this hard drive along with 2 USB drives. By April 22nd, investigators announced that while the hard drive contained no evidence, one of the USB drives held over 35,000 images of child pornography. On April 24th, a grand jury indicted Stephen on first-degree murder charges in connection with Madeline's death. Kissimmee Police Chief Betty Holland stated that evidence indicated Stephen had made calculated efforts to dispose of Madeline's belongings and conceal her body before she was reported missing. The state attorney's office later announced they would seek the death penalty against him. As court proceedings continued, detectives interviewed Madeline's mother again on April 18th. During this interview, she revealed that she had returned home late, finding Madeline and Stephen alone together, recounting that she allowed them to sleep in the same bed due to her trust in him, raising serious questions about the dynamics within their household. By June 10th, prosecutors officially sought the death penalty against Stephen Stearns. The community remained on edge as they awaited the trial proceedings, grappling with the horror of what had transpired. The public reaction was one of heartbreak and anger, with vigils held in Madeline's memory and community members rallying for justice. The case spurred discussions about child safety and the need for vigilance against potential threats lurking in everyday life. As the legal process continues, Madeline Soto's story serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of protecting our children and ensuring their voices are heard. The quest for justice remains ongoing as investigators and community members alike seek answers to a tragedy that has left an indelible mark on their lives.